Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Am I alone? Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice. It's your turn, everyone. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Yay! Thank you, Suzanne. What a lively, lively welcome. Still some people coming in, but that's okay. We'll get started. We have a busy, busy schedule today. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Julian.
Welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist first Sunday service of 2026. My name is Jillian Newcomb, pronouns she, her, and it's an honor to be service weaver this morning. A warm and cozy welcome to you on this frosty day, whether you're here in person, with us on Zoom, or watching a recording of this service. And a special welcome to those who might be here for the first time. As a spiritual community, our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world, and all are welcome here. Our Reverend Sally is away today, so I'll provide a brief introduction to the space. For those of us gathered here in person, please be mindful of the varying needs and boundaries of one another, honoring our mask-required seating area and keeping the aisles clear for mobility devices. Our community is committed to a love that makes space for all. We are of many ages, abilities, and emotional places, which means we strive to embrace whatever little noises or distractions come with being together. If you have a phone or device that can be silenced, I invite you to do that now, unless you need it to access and participate in our service. Please know that our services are usually about 90 minutes, so if there's anything you need to do to make yourself comfortable in this space, be it sit, stand, pace, fidget, or get a glass of water, grab a tissue, please feel free to do so at any time. This includes settling into a comfy chair in our little annex, or finding something cool to play with at the activity table. These spaces are not just for the younger ones. All are welcome. If you're new and would like us to keep in touch, I meant to bring up a newcomer card. Could somebody, thank you, Rob. Rob and Peter and Steph are all waving our information card. So please fill that out and put it into the offering basket as it comes by you later in the service. And that way we can stay in touch. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your relationship to belief, spirituality, or this community, we are glad you're here today. Now let's stand and say hi to the members of this community. Remember to wave at the camera at the back of the sanctuary to include our friends on Zoom. And when you hear the chimes, please return to your seat. Now let's say hello. Welcome. I acknowledge that the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations are the treaty holders of this land on which we gather today, and that the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy lived here before me and are still living here now, together with other First Nations, Métis and Inuit. I'm grateful for the reminders and teachings about our connection to the natural world. The wisdom that is shared traditionally within the numerous and widespread communities of Indigenous peoples across the continent is something we can all learn and grow from as we stand in solidarity with our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Together now, let us create a space that is free from distractions, worries, and the mental chatter of daily life. Let us create an atmosphere of peace, stillness, and serenity. I invite you to join me in reading our invocation. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here, a space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life, a life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. I now invite Steph to come up and light our chalice. Instead of igniting it anew, Steph is illuminating the neighborhood chalice from the children's flame. This practice honors each child as a vital part of our community and reminds us that also our own inner child is worthy of being nurtured.
We light this chalice to remember, to light the fire within our own hearts.
Thank you, Steph. And now to sing.
This is a Cole Porter song, and since we're here all together, we're going to have a little laugh. And it's all about friendship. If you're ever in a jam, here I am. If you're ever in a mess, SOS. If you're ever, or have you land in jail, I'm your bail. It's friendship, friendship, just the perfect blendship. When other friendships have been forgot, ours will still be hot. A la da 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 dig dig dig. If you're ever down a well ring of my bell. And if you're ever up a tree, call to me. If you ever lose your teeth when you're out to dine, borrow mine. It's friendship, friendship, just the perfect blandship. When other friendships have been forgot, ours will still be hot. La da 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 da, chuck chuck chuck. If they ever black your eyes, put me wise. And if they ever cook your goose, turn me loose. If they ever put a bullet right through your brain, I'll complain. It's friendship, friendship, just the perfect blandship. When other friendships go up in smoke, ours will still be oak. A la da 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 da, hep hep hep. If you ever lose your mind, I'll be kind. And if you ever lose your shirt, I'll be hurt. And if you're ever in a mill and get sawed in half, I won't laugh. It's friendship, friendship, just the perfect blandship. When other friendships are up the crick, ours will still be slick. A la da 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 da, hep hep hep. Oh woof woof woof, a chop chop chop, a dig dig dig, quack quack quack. Good morning, friends.
Thank you, Luann, a valued member of our spirit band and spirit choir, and thank you, Suzanne, our music director. That was great. Unitarian Universalists share a common set of values that are expressed through defined principles. Our congregation is centered on Principle 5 this month, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Our in-between slide this month is a photo of a barn swallow with beak wide open as if to say, I will be heard. UUs believe that each person's inner and outer voices are precious and essential to creating a just and inclusive community. But today, we digress slightly. We have invited Liz James back to Neighborhood to share the story of the UU Hysterical Society, the practical joke that accidentally turned into a 300,000 person UU community on Facebook. Not only is Liz founder, she also runs Mirth and Dignity, an organization devoted to supporting diverse expressions of Unitarian Universalism. So get yourselves ready for a hilarious tale. Before we go on, though, there is something that needs to be said. 1 week ago yesterday, Reverend Patricia Trudeau, a woman who is intricately woven with her family into the fabric of our congregation, died unexpectedly. Although some here might not have known her, many of us are still reeling and trying to come to terms with the emotional blow of losing this remarkable woman so suddenly. Perhaps some are wondering how we can simply go on with our usual program in light of this devastating shock. Well, to know Pat was to know her effervescent laugh, her joie de vivre, and truly playful spirit. We aren't doing it just yet. Thanks, Allison. In fact, Liz and Pat were friends. And the last time Liz was at this lectern in January 2024, Reverend Pat was our contract minister and was service weaver that day. So it seems serendipitously fitting that Liz be here to grieve and laugh with us and to remind us that fully bearing the bracing bitter winds of winter helps us feel the glow of the summer sun on our skin that much more deeply. As Khalil Gibran so beautifully expresses in The Prophet, your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the selfsame well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. How else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. And on the practice of joy, Liz offers this reading by Reverend Scott Taylor, founder and leader of The Soul Matters. It's easy to get tricked, taken for a ride, convinced that joy is a possession, something to be opened just by us, as if it's a holiday special delivery waiting for us to unwrap it and keep forever. And who can blame us? With pain being so prevalent. Sadness seems to stay. Why then can't joy? But maybe it's elusive for a reason. Maybe it's slippery in order to help us understand that it was put here to fly, or better yet, to be flung, to be passed, not possessed, to be spread between you and me, between the ones who received its gift and the ones that have been looking for its treasure for a very long time. Maybe joy is a beautiful and elegant contagion, a power over which we have more control than we think. If only we share it. If only we notice that joy is not ours to keep, but ours to give. Maybe joy opens us as much as we open to it. Maybe that's the way light leaks into our world.
We're going to sing a joyful song together. It's been a while since we've done this song, so I wanted to give us an opportunity to learn it. It's in 2 parts, and we are arbitrarily designating this side of the room, part 1, and this side of the room, part 2. So part 1, people, this is going to be your part. We're going to do a little call and response, okay? Now let us sing, 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 sing.
Now let us sing, 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 sing.
Second phrase, same as the first. Let's do it again.
Now let us sing, 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 sing.
Then lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid.
Now let us sing to the power of the faith within.
Now let us sing to the power of the faith within.
There's that little hiccup before the word faith. All right, let's try the whole thing. Why does it, well, let's stay for a second while I teach them. Okay, all the way through. 1, 2, 3.
Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within.
You've got it. Excellent. Thank you, Allison. Hello, this side. We're singing an answer to their part, so you hear from them. Now let us sing, and then we come in. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Second line is almost the same. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice. Lift up your voice. Lift up your voice. Be not afraid. Be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. So let's try the whole thing. Now let us sing. Sing to the power of the faith within.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the faith within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice. Be not afraid.
And let us
Sing to the power of the faith within. All right. Let's have everyone rise if you're willing and able. And I'd like to ask from the congregation Some other things that we're going to sing to the power of. We're singing in the opening time through to the power of faith. And I think our second time through we'll sing to the power of joy, considering our theme today. Could some people call out some other things we want to sing to the power of today?
Peace.
Peace, hope, love. Thank you, everyone.
Love.
We got you. That's it. Joy, peace, hope, love. All right. Let's make it happen. And we have to remember our side, actually, because we have to sing that word first. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the
sing,
faith
sing.
within.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the
sing,
faith
sing.
within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid.
Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the joy within.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the joy within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid.
Now let us sing to the power of the joy within. Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the love within.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the love within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid.
Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the hope within.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the hope within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice. Be not afraid.
And let us
Sing to the power of the hope within. And there we have it. That sounded great. Thanks, everyone.
Morning. I'd like to invite children to come forward if there are any. This is a song or a story for all ages, though. Our story this morning is After the Fall by Dan Santat. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot high up on the wall. I know it's a bit of a weird place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. And then one day I fell. I am sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little bit fancy. It was just an accident, but it changed my life. After that day, fortunately all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. After that day, I was afraid. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. You see the best cereals are at the top. I walked past that wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being high above the city, but I could never do it because I knew accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. And then one day, an idea flew by. Making paper planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. My plane was perfect, and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt so happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. So I almost walked away again. But then I thought about all the time that I had spent working on my plane and all the other things that I had missed, and I decided I was going to climb the wall. The higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it, but I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing, one step at a time, until I was no longer afraid. And maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Hopefully, you'll remember me as the egg who got back up and discovered that he could fly.
Now I'm going to ask all of the children and youth to follow me into the rainbow room. And we're going to grab the chalice.
Children grow in the Spirit. Children grow in the Spirit. Grow in the Spirit, children. Grow in the Spirit, children. Grow in the Spirit, grow in the Spirit, grow in the Spirit.
So before I start my message, I want to say how grateful I am to be with you this morning. I've been thinking about Pat all week. I first met Pat in seminary, and her joy lit up the room. What I remember most about her is her way of being aware of everyone in the space and making sure that everybody was included. And I will miss her. It is a little weird to do such a laughter and joy-based service in the wake of those thoughts all week. For me, the story I'm about to tell, Pat was there for a lot of it. She was involved in a lot of different hijinks, so wherever I was preaching this morning, I would be thinking of Pat, and I'm grateful to be telling this story here with you, knowing that you are thinking of her as well. So I'm especially thankful to be invited here this morning. Just as I was beginning seminary, my congregation moved into a new building. I was on the board at the time. I was a busybody with my nose in everything, and so somehow I got involved in renovating the space to make it suitable for Unitarian Universalists. First and foremost, that meant removing the giant wooden cross from the front of the room. Now, if you're new, I need to clarify, UUs don't have a problem with crosses. We're not vampires. There's lots of people who are both UU and Christian, but there's also humanist UUs and agnostics and Buddhists and pagans, just to name a few. So the giant cross at the front of the room would have been just lifting up one perspective, which would have been more Jesus than our congregation was looking for on a weekly basis. So you get it. So the theology was clear, but in practical terms, it turns out wood is quite heavy. The phrase cross to bear is not just a metaphor. Getting this thing off the wall was a feat of engineering and a near-death experience, and now what? The giant cross wouldn't exactly fit in the back of my minivan. It would need to be cut up into pieces, but you can't use the power saw in the building because sawdust flies everywhere, and there was an informal rule about no power saws in the sanctuary, and that was on the verge of becoming a formal rule if I did it again. So this was the line of thinking that led me to a conversation with my friend Anne, who is a woman of great maturity and perspective. This is a sensitive time for your neighbors, Anne explained, with the loss of the old church that shrank until they couldn't afford their building. Your new neighbors will be grieving, but there is also potential for new connection, for inviting those people in. And Liz, this plan you have, the community's introduction to Unitarian Universalism cannot be you taking a power saw to their cross on the front lawn of the old church. Which was a valid point. I'm not sure how the cross was removed in the end, actually. For some reason, they didn't involve me any further, but it got done. But here's the thing. It had hung there for many years, beside the huge vaulted window through which light streamed down. And it's true what they say, light really does transform everything it touches, particularly on a timescale of years. And so sure enough, the paint behind that cross had grown distinctly lighter, but the paint behind the cross had not. And so now, immediately beside the pulpit was a clear, stenciled outline. This could have been solved by repainting, of course, but in order to do that, we would have had to agree on paint colors. And the decorating committee pointed out that the paint colors couldn't be chosen until the fabric for the new chairs to replace the pews had been chosen. And the worship committee felt that the pews couldn't be removed until we talked about how we embody our identity in the structure of our worship space, particularly when it comes to religious authority. And you get where it's going. The fifth principle about democracies has its upsides, but it does sometimes slow things down a little bit. And so for many months, we did not worship beside a giant cross. Instead, we worshipped beside the very conspicuous shadow that was cast by its absence, a giant "Jesus was here" symbol stenciled high above our heads. That was there in more ways than one, actually. It was on the literal wall, of course, but it was also in the conspicuous role that the Protestant tradition we come from played in everything we did. It is often in the tunes of the songs we sing, and the fact that we meet on Sunday mornings, often in a building owned explicitly for that purpose. As UUs, we've expanded our theology, but the ways we embody that theology have not actually changed so much in centuries. So to me, the shadow of the cross on the wall on Sunday morning was a physical manifestation of a structure that was frozen in time. It said, we have decided to do things differently, but we aren't actually doing that quite yet because our details are still stuck in committee. So around the time of this shadow of the cross business, I was also feeling stuck in committee myself. I was so in love with Unitarian Universalism and its values, and I was expressing that love by going to seminary, where we talked about this shadow of the cross stuff. We wouldn't have used that language, but we talked about how social change was threatening traditional institutions, like legacy media or academia, and especially church, and how we might expand our structures to adapt to that. But we had those conversations in a university, mirroring the old ways of doing things with every detail of our structure, with all the expense that goes with academia, and the inertia and the gatekeeping. And by approaching the issue from only that perspective, we were taking down the cross, but continuing to function within the confines of its shape. I sucked at all of it, by the way. Even when I am not critiquing the premise of school, I am a terrible student. Forcing my brain to study has always felt like trying to wrestle an angry toddler into a car seat. I had long since received an ADHD diagnosis, which is the medical term for the angry toddler car seat situation. And I had received medication and behavioral suggestions, and of course all the messages that go with all of that. At the time, I saw myself as disordered and the wrong shape for academia. But I loved Unitarian Universalism, and I wanted to serve it. And this was how you did it. So I was determined to squeeze into the shape that was being asked of me. Sometimes I was determined, on my better days. On my less disciplined days, I would skip the books and sermons we were supposed to be watching, and I would do what I love to do, which is laugh. And then I remember one day I was procrastinating on homework, watching these comedians on YouTube, and I thought, wait a second. They're talking about the exact same ideas as the people in the books I'm reading, or supposed to be reading. Big topics, often tricky topics. Stand-up comedians tackle everything: religion, money, race, ethics. But they do it in this way that's funny and accessible and easy to pay attention to. And that was the beginning of a doorway in me. Maybe the fact I had trouble paying attention to high academia wasn't just a flaw that would make me a crappy minister, although I firmly believe I would have been a crappy minister, but maybe all of those traits were what would allow me to talk about those same topics ministers do, but in a way that's a bit easier to pay attention to, that would make room for people like me. The farther I moved from the powerless position of a grade school child, the more assertive that line of thinking became. I would sit in my school lectures and the usual messages would run through my mind. Oh, the problem is that I need to be better at paying attention. But now there was this little voice that argued back, that argued, how come it's always that I have to work harder to pay attention? I have been working as hard as I can to pay attention for years. How come that guy doesn't have to work any harder at being easier to pay attention to? When it wasn't dry, the stuff I was learning was also, it was not what I had expected to be learning. I had always had these stories of our history in my head, like Michael Servetus, the Unitarian martyr, chased and persecuted and ultimately burned at the stake for his brave act of speaking the truth to John Calvin. So it turns out, if you read Servetus's writing in his own words, he is smart, he is very articulate, he's definitely brave. He's also really obnoxious. He does not just tell his truth, he stalks John Calvin. He writes him letters, arguing every little point. He distributes books trashing Calvin. At one point, Calvin has a warrant out for Servetus's arrest. Servetus goes to one of his talks and sits in the front row and glares him down. He was like the worst kind of internet troll, but in real life. Now, Servetus didn't deserve what happened to him. Nobody deserves that. But after reading his actual words, dripping with arrogance and condescension, there's like this little part of me that kind of sympathized with John Calvin. I mean, I know that guy. I've chaired meetings containing that guy. Often in the meeting, I have been that guy, to tell you the truth. He is the best of us in some ways and the worst of us in others. Or Emerson and Thoreau, that's another one. I had always admired the transcendentalists, how they forged these intentional, beautiful lives full of integrity. Learning a little bit more about it, Thoreau could retreat to the woods to suck the marrow out of life because he was living on land that Emerson gave him for free. Where did the land come from, Thoreau? And this story about making a bold choice to live a simple life in the woods, I think we could say that Thoreau didn't invent that idea. In fact, before Thoreau's people arrived, simple was pretty much the only way anybody ever lived in those woods. There was this whole system supporting Thoreau. He had no kids to take care of, he had his free land, and we're pretty sure that Emerson's wife was doing his laundry. Louisa May Alcott, meanwhile, she's living a few miles away, making all those same theological points about simplicity and intentionality and virtue in what became her best-selling novels, Little Women. But she wrote in a way that was not academic. While her dad sat in the study talking philosophy with Thoreau and Emerson, he did not work for much of Louisa's life, Louisa got to work writing. In a world not built for women to have a voice, she found a way to have a voice. In a world not built for women to earn, she found a way to feed her family with that voice. And she did all of that while doing her own laundry. I'm sure you can hear the edge of frustration. I was not the only one who felt this way. We malcontents found one another and we bonded, and then we used our pent-up irritation and our weird knowledge to play very witty and historically specific pranks on each other. So one time, some of our friends who ran a UU housing cooperative in Boston posted online that they were accepting applications for new roommates. A few of us applied as various historic Unitarians and Universalists. We applied as Emerson, listing Thoreau under pets. We applied as Michael Servetus, and under food allergies, we wrote barbecue. I'm not endorsing it, I'm just telling you what happened. We applied as the people we thought were missing from our mainstream history, too, like Reverend Olympia Brown, first woman in the US to be ordained, or Dorothy Dix, whose tireless lobbying transformed conditions for institutionalized people in the US, Canada, and several other countries. These women's names are not our best-known heroes, but when you line their life up against Thoreau in the woods or Servetus with his letters, you cannot deny their stories deserve just as much acknowledgement. The housing co-op wrote back and invited us for an interview, which was going to be tricky since we were all dead. The housing co-op also cautioned us in their letters that, quote, some housemates may not have experience in living with the dead and may require education on matters of corporeal privilege. All of this was followed by a week of messaging and coordinating and giggling and pranking that left me feeling warm and connected. Connected with my peers and with my UU heritage, gently poking fun at the things that we thought deserved to be knocked down a peg or two, and lifting up some stories that aren't always told. The prank connected me with my values, too, because we were always coordinating to know just how far to push things to keep it funny for everybody involved. Above all, the prank left me feeling a part of Unitarian Universalism. We understood the shared jokes because they arose out of shared stories and values. I mean, corporeal privilege? How UU is that? This was a space that had room for me, where I didn't have to change shape to fit into a prescribed shadow. And I didn't want it to end. So on a whim, I created a Facebook group and named it the UU Hysterical Society. This was a play on the UU Historical Society, who have changed their name like twice since then, so nobody ever gets my joke. People usually just point out that the word hysterical has a troublesome history, used as a weapon to discredit and harm women, which is true. Throughout history, the symptoms of hysteria have been varied. It's been sometimes a woman who was struggling with what we would now call a mental illness or a disability. Sometimes it was a physical condition like epilepsy, or a life choice like deciding not to get married. Often it was a woman who was unwilling or unable to toe the line in some way. It was a catch-all word for any woman who was inconvenient and must be treated. A hysterical woman is a woman who is the wrong shape. And I, who was struggling so hard to fit into the shadow of the cross, I loved my hysterical society. It was an expression of my values. It was a space that fit me. It was a break from the ministerial formation process at a time when that process was starting to break me. For years, I didn't think of it as anything other than Liz's personal refuge. By the time I figured out something else was happening, we had about 20,000 members. Someone posted that she had nearly driven her car off the road after spotting a UU church. She said she thought we were a joke religion, made up for the purposes of the UU Hysterical Society. And she said that seeing a real UU church was like spotting a unicorn. She wrote that she almost drove her car off the road yelling, "They're real! They're real!" And I thought, wow, we could be telling 20,000 people about what Unitarian Universalism is. And then I thought, oh no. Because I am not the right person to represent Unitarian Universalism on that scale, I didn't finish any of the assigned readings. Fortunately, I didn't have to be the right person for the job. A religious educator named Kathy joined the moderation team at about that time, and together we could fill in the gaps. We stewarded the group as it continued to grow, and I toyed with the idea that maybe we should become something more, maybe? Specifically, maybe a legal entity that could apply for grants to fund all that extra work Kathy was putting in. But even thinking along those lines felt presumptive. Like, who did I think we were? Which is not a rhetorical question. Who did I think we were? I had no idea what was going on. And then, in November of 2019, something happened that changed my perspective forever. Reverend Mabutsa Ndajijimana approached me for help raising the money to settle a group of refugees. And in November of 2019, the Hysterical Society held its first charity fundraiser. It was holiday-themed because Christmas and refugees go together, don't they? We sold funny PDFs, like labels for wine that said, "Hey, this was water a minute ago." Or we sold tags for your gifts that said, "It's the thought that counts, and I way overthought this." We sold flasks that said, "For when thoughts and prayers are not enough," and "This is my spiritual practice," which is a joke in two ways. And we raised more than $16,000. And on one of my trips with my arms full of flasks to the post office, where you had to fill out a form and say, "I'm sending out 20 flasks," the post office guy said, "Okay, I'll bite. What is a hysterical society?" And I didn't respond how I usually do when I'm asked what I do for a living. Normally I would have mumbled, "I run a Facebook group that makes fun of my religion," which is not actually an accurate answer, but usually ends the conversation. Instead, I lifted up my head and I grinned, and I answered with confidence and said we were a group that is about joy and community and refugees. We had started gathering around laughter, which is a good in and of itself. It's like a soup kitchen for the soul. But we were slowly turning into more than that. We were still about laughter and community, but also about bringing dignity to people who deserved a chance to build a new life. The Canadian not-for-profit Mirth and Dignity, because worth and dignity, was incorporated the following month. To this day, 100% of the profit from our merchandise goes to the charity that Mabutsa founded. But most of what we do is support forms of UUism that are not supported by traditional institutions. It started with the UU Hysterical Society, then we added a board game ministry, and there's a thing that was happening on TikTok and a comedy podcast, most recently online soulful singing. I could go on, but this is not an infomercial. You do not need this much detail. Unless you share our vision of UUism beyond traditional structures, in which case, come talk to me about becoming one of the people who supports us with a $5 a month pledge. Okay, now I'm done. For now, what I actually want to draw your attention to is the overarching arc of the story, that feeling of not quite fitting, which I find is a feeling a lot of UUs can empathize with. Many of us became UU because we didn't fit into the communities we were born into. And we figured out how to be diverse theologically, and I believe we are also, right now, in the process of creating a kind of structural diversity, a bunch of different ways to be Unitarian Universalist. We have together inherited the shadow of a cross, a set of institutions and practices that define real religion that don't always work for modern communities. I've heard from people who feel like they're tired, like they're trying to do too much, like they feel focused on the wrong things. In our churches and in larger society, we are working ourselves into exhaustion, and it's not doing the trick. Maybe we don't need to work harder. Maybe we've already been working as hard as we can for years. What if the pressure doesn't mean what we think it does? What if we're not cracking because we're breaking, but because we're turning into something different? What if we lean into changing shape, into a version of UUism that contains not only churches, but also other types of communities in symbiotic relationship? What if we just play with it? I have no idea where that approach would lead, any more than I had any idea where the prank in 2015 would lead. But I know that the first step in what we're facing right now is to give ourselves permission to be who we are, not who we think we're supposed to be or who we've always been. What would we do differently if we saw ourselves as hatching? As the Leonard Cohen lyrics tell us so beautifully, ring the bells that still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There are cracks in everything. That's how the light gets in. I think that's true, but I think it's not the whole picture. The cracks are how the light gets in, sure. Sometimes, though, the cracks are also where the light gets out. The cracks are where the hatching starts.
Let's sing. Rise if you are willing and able. I'm going to sing a call and response song. You are singing the part in the brackets. I just want to point out the last line because it's not an exact repetition. So I sing, that's how, you sing, that's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. All right, here we go. Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Thanks, everyone. We should change that last line to "That's how the light gets out, gets out, gets out" for the last time. Next time, Liz. Thanks.
Hi. Hello. My name is H.E., and I'm leading the meditation today. And wildly, I chose this meditation without knowing what the talk was going to be. And I got to put my glasses on so I can see. There we go. So today, I want to share the idea of neurodiverse stimming as a form of meditation. Stimming, often repetitive motions, words, sounds, or activities like fidgeting, is part of the medicalized diagnostic criteria for members of some groups in the neurodiverse community. This is me taking deep breaths. Woo. 2 stemming techniques I use are rocking and humming, although if I'm masking, it'll be flexing my toes or running a thumbnail along my fingers. But I've been asking myself for about the last 6 months, where is the line between mantra-based or sound bath meditation and echolalia or humming? Where is the line between yogic or movement-based meditation and rocking, tapping, or flapping? And how are the reasons that we stim, such as to decrease overwhelm and anxiety, any different than the reason most folks practice meditation? And I also wonder at how comforting it would be to reframe something listed as a symptom into a shared meditative experience, where all of our sounds and movements support each other. So with that in mind, I'm gonna sit, because rocking is my thing. And if you're able and it works for you, find something that works for your body that you find soothing. So for me, again, very big into the rocking. And join me and just hum or shake or tap your knees, whatever soothes you. And Suzanne will bring us back to our shared space at the end. That was really awesome. And I want to encourage you to refocus on the shared space now, the external space. But I also want you to notice if your body responded to the motions and sounds that a lot of neurodiverse folks, develop as a practice before we're verbal, before we're, moving out into the world. It's like this inherent wisdom that we bring to things. I want you to celebrate your capacity to comfort and center yourself. And I want to thank you for your willingness to explore this wisdom of neurodiversity.
Thank you so much, H.E. That was really interesting. Actually, I'm going to keep this here for now. Thank you, just because I want to rest my notes on it. But thanks, Liz. Joys and Concerns is a special opportunity in our service that brings our community closer together, in which we share our feelings about something that is currently on our minds or happening in our lives. We do edit out this ritual from the service recording to preserve privacy. To respect the value of our time together, please know that this is a time for sharing our feelings without fear or judgment. You do not need to provide background or justification for what you're experiencing. I am going to begin by expressing gratitude to all the volunteers whose efforts, both seen and behind the scenes, help our community thrive and grow. And now if Allison could come up and help me. We want to light a candle. A candle of calm reflection and grief as we honor Reverend Patricia Trudeau. This picture was taken at her ordination at Neighborhood in 2019. Her husband Wilburn and son Donovan are by her side. Look at her beaming smile. She looks so full of joy. May Pat's lively, creative spirit, warm and compassionate humanity, and joyful zest for life shine around us today and always. And now we move along to some of the housekeeping. Giving of oneself is an integral part of our congregations. Volunteer efforts are essential, but rent and salaries are paid and programs created in part by our monetary contributions. Members and friends of Neighborhood can give either through our weekly collection that's going to happen now, predated checks, e-transfers, or automatic withdrawals. The greeters will pass the baskets while Peter updates you on the life of the community. Thank you, Peter. And if you do choose to contribute today, please make sure to use one of the little envelopes, write your name on it so you can receive a tax credit around this time next year. And for those on Zoom, please feel free to make a donation through our website. In whatever way you choose to give, your generosity is greatly appreciated.
You'll be hearing a reduced version of the life of the community. The full version is on the screen in the cappuccino room. They make it print smaller every day. Stitch to enrich. We gather to create and share. Beginning this January, join for afternoons of fun and conversation. January 8th and 22nd, Thursday, and Thursday, February 5th and 19th from 12:30 to 3:30 in the cappuccino room. You can come for the crafting, stay for the company, and speak to Luann for more information. By popular demand, I'm rerunning the writing from the Four Directions writing group. If you're interested, we meet every second Wednesday starting January 28th, and there's a sign-up sheet available in the cappuccino room. Concerned about wildfires, multiple international crises, AI taking over? Join Dr. Nate Sharak and Neighborhood's Gwen Showerty, Gwen, in a small group that empowers you to take meaningful action to address the challenges of our time. The small group starts on February 26th. To register, use the sign-up sheet again in the cappuccino room. Saturday, January 10th from 1 to 6 is Good Karma Cleaning Day, in which, in exchange for just a short amount of work, you accumulate massive amounts of good karma. So give your ideas to David Renzetti, and you can email him or talk to him afterwards for more information. Neighborhood Karaoke Night, Saturday, January 10th, from 7:30 to 9:30 with DJ Jojo and hosted by Allison. C, the Social and Environmental Action Committee meets January 11th in person after service. That's next Sunday. We need your thoughts on how to extend the messages of our services into shared action for the care of our world. The Act of Hope small group, this is, I think, the same announcement we had earlier, is meeting, and there's a series of dates that you can check in the Cappuccino room when you can meet to talk about various issues. Our service next Sunday, January 11th, the message is Seed Change. Laura Sewell will be our speaker. The music will be provided by Toronto's own Raging Grannies, who are utterly amazing. Sally will be the service weaver and demonstrate her skill at that as well, and will do the time for all ages as well.
Thank you so much. All right, Suzanne's going to sing again.
Hi, everyone. Can we rise again for our final song? This is going to be our song of the month from the new Unitarian Universalist hymnal, Sing Out Love. That's what SOUL is short for up there. Let's do a little call and response on the chorus, and then we'll do the whole song. So, this boat is steady. This boat is steady. This boat is sure. This boat is sure. When you're ready, climb aboard, climb aboard. When you're ready, grab an oar. When you're ready, grab an oar. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. Here we go. This boat is steady. This boat is sure. When you're ready, climb aboard. When you're ready, grab an oar. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. We all know hardship. We all know pain, but nothing ventured means nothing gained. Every rainbow needs the rain. You're not alone, try again. This boat is steady, this boat is sure. When you're ready, climb aboard. When you're ready, grab an oar. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. Even though you've been tempest-tossed, even if you feel that all is lost, you've heard the thunder roar, had a look at heaven's door. If you're sinking like a stone, this boat will carry you home. In this boat, there's nothing we can't do together, no matter the weather, no matter what the charts on holds. We will navigate by our stars. This boat is steady. This boat is sure. When you're ready, climb aboard. When you're ready, grab an oar. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. This boat is steady. This boat is sure. When you're ready, climb aboard. When you're ready, grab an oar. This boat will carry us to the farthest shore. boat would carry us to the farthest shore. This boat would carry us to the farthest shore.
I keep remembering, thinking back to Liz's talk, and I always think, we're real. We're real people. Unitarians are real people. I invite Steph up to extinguish our chalice, which just fell over and extinguished itself. This is an unusual service from beginning to end. Well, just put it there. Thanks, Allison. Does it want to start? Yes.
Oh, you're
Just barely watch your sleeve. Okay. We have a tradition when we conclude our services here of linking together. So now I encourage you to join hands with your neighbors, or lock arms, or touch shoulders, whatever feels most comfortable. I would like to repeat the last few lines of Reverend Taylor's reading, that we may hold their essence close as we go back into the world and embrace the week ahead. Maybe joy is a beautiful and elegant contagion, a power over which we have more control than we think, if only we share it. If only we notice that joy is not ours to keep, but ours to give. Maybe joy opens us as much as we open to it. Maybe that's the way the light leaks into our world. Our service has ended.